Am I the jerk for snapping at my sister and making her cry during dinner? Context. I, 18F, have always been seen as more of the responsible child over my sister, 20F. I could always balance my social life and my academics well, which led to my being a great student ambassador and an honor student while still enjoying high school parties and the likes. My sister, on the other hand, does not have the same balance and has often had parties take priority over school, which has made my parents lose some trust in her. My sister was only allowed by my parents to stay at the best private university in our city, while I have just been allowed to attend the most prestigious university in our country. My sister has been ranting and complaining about this, even going so far as saying that my parents have favorites and it's not her. At some point, she stopped talking about my parents and instead started talking about how entitled and spoiled I was for going to my dream school and leaving our city. I let it slide because I know that she had a right to be mad since I was allowed into my dream school while she wasn't. But her comments started getting worse, and one night at dinner, as she was ranting to our common friends, I just snapped. I told her that her irresponsibility in high school was the cause of our parents not trusting her, and it is not my fault that she lost her chance to go to her dream school. My parents were just not willing to pay a fortune for her to go to school only for her to not take her studies seriously. I told her, if anything, she was the spoiled one in our situation because this year, I am the graduate. Yet all I've gotten was headphones, while she has gotten a new iPad, a room makeover, and an increase in an allowance that she doesn't even need. I pointed out that she was the favorite child, since even during my birthday trip to Japan, she was the one being followed, which meant I didn't get to do what I wanted to do. My sister started crying and telling me that I don't deserve anything and I should apologize to her for lying about her. I refused to apologize for stating facts, but our friends have been telling me that it was a jerk move to refuse apologizing, causing my sister to continue crying and humiliating herself in public. Am I the jerk? So she was also making these comments publicly, from what I understand, at the dinner that you were all out at. You essentially responding in kind is not a jerk move. If she can't take it, she shouldn't really be dishing it out. All of the other context seems a little unnecessary to me, actually. Like, her being right or wrong doesn't actually make her more or less of the jerk here, in my opinion. It was just, she said some things, you said some other things directly addressing those things and kind of countering them, and then she got upset at you. Like, sucks to be her, but maybe, like, don't start a fight, you can't win. Would I be the jerk for not wanting my mother-in-law at my daughter's first birthday? My daughter's turning 1 in a month, and I've had my boyfriend's family on the invite list, but a party caused me to want to change my mind. I went to a party for Father's Day with my boyfriend and baby at mother-in-law's house. I had already been upset that day just due to postpartum depression hormones, but for the most part the party was okay. Until I went to feed my daughter. I breastfeed and I do not do it openly. I cover myself and her with a blanket. I am not exposed, but my boyfriend came to me and asked me to go to a different room because he could see. He could only see when standing directly above me. I got upset because I didn't need to go to a different room. I found out later the reason that he said that was because his dad and brother said it was making them uncomfortable. That had me fuming. Why was it uncomfortable for me to feed my daughter? I was not exposing myself. I should not be forced to move somewhere else just to give her food. Now I don't think I want them at my baby's birthday. I don't need drama because I want to feed my daughter and they're uncomfortable with the most natural thing in the world. Would I be the jerk? By the way, I don't want to uninvite the mother-in-law. The reason I have to is because if I tell her father-in-law isn't invited, she won't come anyway. Also, I do understand it was their home. I was not comfortable with their asking, so I did leave. I didn't argue with anyone or start a scene, I just left instead. My reason for posting this is to see if I should uninvite the family. With my postpartum depression lately, I can be overactive and I just want some insight on what to do. I think a lot of my anger is coming from past events and that my boyfriend does nothing for me and has tried to ban my family from seeing my baby just because my mom held her first at the hospital. And when I disagreed, he blew up on me. I don't even know if my anger truly is towards his family, maybe a little bit, but I think it's mostly towards my boyfriend. He's banned my mother multiple times from our place and got into a huge physical fight at a family friend's birthday because he was drunk. And he spat at the person whose birthday it was, and it just escalated from there. It really kind of sounds like, okay, well, there's a lot of stuff going on here, but for the first thing, it sounds like that the guys were just uncomfortable with it because they're guys, I guess? I don't know. I've personally never really gotten the uncomfortability around breastfeeding, but at the same time, it's their house, their rules, but they should have just asked her themselves. Like, it was kind of a jerk move to get her husband to do it because they were too awkward to ask. Because that really just sounds like to me, they know they're asking something that they shouldn't. If you're gonna have like personal boundaries and say that makes you uncomfortable, be like stronger in it. And the whole thing about her boyfriend actually being the root of the problem, woof. I am scared to touch that. It seems like there's a whole problem here, but they just had a baby. Ooh. It's not looking great for the couple, but perhaps, as she said, it might just be PPD and I don't want to say get over it. That sounds very dismissive. But like, essentially, maybe they'll be able to patch things up. I hope. Mostly for the child's sake. Am I the jerk for not giving my sister the car I inherited from my late great-grandfather's will? Context. So 2 months ago, my great-grandfather, 85M, passed away due to pancreatic cancer, and in his will he left me, 19M, his 2019 Mercedes-Benz. He always told me that he will leave the car to me because it's something he dearly loves and wants to see it in good hands. I drive a Volkswagen Polo 2017, which I've had for 2 years. It is my first car. My sister, 17F, has just gotten her license. She admitted to passing the test out of pure luck, and she almost crashed my mother's car for texting. The reason I made this post. So, for the last month or so, ever since the car got put into my custody, my sister has been nagging me non-stop because she wants the Mercedes. She told me that I don't deserve to have 2 cars. I'm a selfish person who is inconsiderate to his family. I've helped her pay for her driving lessons, and I offered to help her get better at driving by letting her drive my Volkswagen, but she refused because she doesn't want to drive manual transmission. I've also been helping her save up for her first car. She wanted a Fiat 500 and she has saved up enough now to get one used. I have considered giving her the car, but her recent attitude towards me made me remember what my great-grandfather told me about him wanting the car to be mine. I don't think anyone should drive a car like that with a fresh license. Yesterday at work, I got a phone call from my mother. She asked me how I am, and we got to the point of the conversation when she mentioned taking my sister car shopping. I didn't really reply anything to that. She said, "You know, if someone wasn't that selfish, your sister wouldn't have to go through all the expense of purchasing a car." I replied, "Look, no matter how much nagging and labeling you do, I will not give her the car. It was left for me. She doesn't get to act like a jerk to me because she thinks she's entitled to it. Your car was almost totaled because she was texting. I won't give it to her because she wants to look cool in school for rolling up in a Benz. If I was her, I would spend that money on driving lessons because she needs it." Little did I know I was being ambushed. My sister replied while I was on call to my mother, implying that they were both in on it. She cussed me out and said, "You're nothing more than a selfish jerk. Great-grandfather's probably rolling around in his grave watching his grandson be the biggest disappointment in this family." I hung up and I just burst out into tears. My boss heard everything because my sister was screaming and she gave me a hug and then went back to work. So currently, I use both cars. Sometimes this, sometimes that. I don't want to sell either, but maybe it'll be a good thing if I need to take either car to the mechanic. I feel like a jerk. What do you think? A really nice car should not go to a new driver. That just makes sense. In my high school, I went to a private school and I saw a good number of really, really nice cars get banged up pretty bad within like the first year of driving them. In fact, it's almost an inevitability. It should be expected that a new driver is going to make some mistakes and dent up a car a bit or get scratched or whatever. It happens. It's part of like how you learn. You have to make mistakes. As such, I think it would be a terrible idea to give a very nice car to someone in that state who is new. I think OP is completely in the right for not wanting to give the car to his sister. After all, his great-grandfather told him that he wanted him to have it specifically. I do think that OP had the opportunity to, like, say, "Hey, do you want to drive around my Volkswagen?" Or give her the Volkswagen basically as an offer. But even that's like a lot. A car isn't cheap. And in fact, he really has no obligation to do that. It could have just been a really nice thing for him to do upon getting the new car. But on the other hand, I also understand wanting to have 2 cars because if you have a really nice one and you don't really want to drive it around all the time, it's good to have a second one to do all like day-to-day tasks with. Anyway, what I'm getting at is OP is not the jerk at all. There's an update though, so let me read that. Update. Firstly, I want to thank all of you for your comments, kind words, and everything basically. My mother called me about 10 minutes ago, apologizing about yesterday. She told me that my sister is grounded, and after speaking with my father, they took out their contributions to her savings for a car. Am I the jerk for not making an effort to speak to my younger siblings? So I, M22, have a rather large age gap between myself and the rest of my siblings. My mother gave birth to me at 14 and gave me up to my aunt. A year later, she'd give birth to my brother, whom she also gave up. I talk to him on occasion, but have no relationship with him other than saying happy birthday or Merry Christmas. My mom wouldn't have more kids until she turned 24, and after that she just kept giving birth. I have 11 siblings for reference. I was raised by an aunt who lives rather far away from the rest of the family, so that made it quite difficult to visit my siblings. I was able to see them twice before my aunt and mother had a falling out, but after that my mom refused to let me see or speak to my siblings. Anytime I tried to contact my siblings on social media, she blocked me, or if I made an attempt to call, they'd tell her and she'd block my number. After a while, I simply gave up. My brother doesn't have this issue. He doesn't know why my mom is doing this to me. When I turned 22, I got a random message on Facebook from a sibling who had blocked me before, and she asked me why I never made the effort to see them again. I didn't really know what to say, so I just ignored it. Am I the jerk for not trying hard enough to speak to them? It sounds like OP's biological mom is playing goalkeeper here. And it's really not sounding like OP's fault that he didn't try hard enough or anything. He seems like he put forward like a decent effort, and he's only 22. First of all, he has a lot of time to connect with his siblings later, and he has his own life to get on with. College, further education, whatever, like a career? With the mom being so vehemently like against him meeting the siblings, obviously, I think it makes sense for him to just step back and be like, all right, whatever. The sibling who asked OP why he didn't try harder obviously does not know the whole story, and if they did, I'm sure they would be more understanding. Not the jerk. Am I the jerk for saying thanks for noticing when someone pointed out I lost weight? This past weekend, a group of friends from high school and I got together on Saturday. The last time I'd seen them was a year ago, and I, 23F, was a bit overweight. I'd been having health issues for a while that made it hard for me to be active since my metabolism is horrible. I gained a lot of weight. I was about 5'7" at 210 pounds. I resolved my health issues and I've been able to hike and work out again, so naturally I started losing the weight. I'm about 165 now. Not quite back to my normal, but I'm much happier now. I went from obese to just a little bit overweight. This weekend when we got together, one friend, Derek, said, "You've lost a lot of weight, you look great, congrats," or something like that. I said, "Thanks for noticing, I'm a lot happier now." A girl in my friend group, Serena, who isn't my favorite to be honest, said it's not appropriate for Derek to comment on anyone's weight, and I shouldn't reinforce that it's okay. To be honest, Serena has always been kind of bossy, telling people what they can or can't do. I told her that it's a personal preference, and since I'm not insecure about myself, I don't have any issues with people commenting on my weight or appearance. But I'll be sure to never bring up her weight or appearance in the future since now I know her preference. Our whole group of 10 sided with me except for Serena's best friend. Those two decided to go home and have been texting me telling me what an awful person I am. Am I the jerk for saying thanks for noticing when my friend commented on my weight and reinforcing that it's okay to do so? I'm assuming that Derek knows OP pretty well if he felt comfortable saying something like that. It's true that it's not something you bring up unprompted with someone you don't know that well, but with like a pretty good friend and you have a good feeling that they're going to take it well, sure, I don't see the problem with it at all. This kind of thing is all about context to me. In this context that it happened in, OP is not the jerk at all. And first of all, I don't know why OP's even in question of being the jerk. Like, oh no, OP said thank you for, like, appreciating and seeing my hard work. Like, what? Yes, because that could totally be a jerk move. Basically, what I'm saying is, don't go around talking to everyone about their weight, but if you know someone really well and have a good idea of how they're going to react, it's fine. Am I the jerk for not moving back home to help my parents' mortgage? Male 24, UK. Work at a fairly senior position for my age. Making good, livable money, but nothing ridiculous, and I'm currently saving for a house deposit with my long-term girlfriend. I've always been quite a high-achieving person, and this was mostly because my parents were very pushy with me. They would always sign me up for everything under the sun. Acting classes, music lessons, a whole host of sports, public speaking, competitions, etc. Academically, I excelled, but always felt very pressured by my parents into what were acceptable and unacceptable courses to pursue. I graduated university in 2021 just at the tail end of the COVID pandemic. I moved back in with my parents, but immediately things felt tense as they were straight away hounding me to get a job. And every day came with a new lecture about how it was good to find my independence and move out. I kind of rushed into a teaching job which moved me across the country far away from my parents, and I've been living entirely financially and physically independent for 2 years. And I've been able to save good money doing it. In the 2 years I've been away, my father's company has struggled, my younger brother has started going to private school, something I never got, and my mother has become heavily disabled with a medical condition, leaving her mostly bedridden. 6 months ago, I asked to move back in for a year or so I could save some money on renting to fully save for a deposit. My parents agreed and told me I wouldn't need to pay rent at all. Then, 2 weeks ago, I got another call saying that when I move back, I'd need to pay full rental price matched to what I'm currently paying for my own place. This is about £650 a month for a room in a shared house. This was alarming to me as I only have 4 weeks before I move back now, and this has been a bit of a blow to my savings plans. My parents have revealed to me that they are really struggling to pay the mortgage now that mom isn't working and that they don't want to give up sending my brother to private school. They may start defaulting on their mortgage without me. It's clear my parents are struggling with depression, and I've watched them slip further and further into alcoholism. Every time I've gone back home in the last 2 years, the amount of wine I see them both get through is worrying. So this week I told them I had no intention to move back in, and that with the money I was going to rent my own place near them and continue to live independently. This has not gone down well, and now I'm being held up in front of the family as a villain for abandoning my parents in their time of need. Am I the jerk for deciding now to preserve my own independence rather than help my parents with their finances? So OP's parents were really pushy at getting OP out of the house, and then he left the house, and then he wants to come back for a bit, and then they get into a bad situation so they need him to come back, and instead of pushing him out, now they're pulling him in. It doesn't sound super healthy for OP's independence, and I'm kinda glad he's steering clear. Them drinking a lot of wine and seemingly not wanting to cut down on any expenses is a huge red flag in my mind. These seem like people who started to get very comfortable living a certain way, and then when the money started to dry up, some problems came up. They didn't really want to cut back on their spending, so now they're just looking at ways to get more money instead, which is not really the way to go about things in a situation like this. I don't think OP has any obligation to help his parents pay their mortgage. They should be financially strong enough to do this. I am sure there are expenses that could be cut back on, basically. Not the jerk.